In a recent interview, Los Angeles point guard Patrick Beverley has come out to speak his mind about his relationship with Phoenix Suns point guard Chris Paul. It is widely known that there is a feud between both basketball players. So what did Patrick Beverley have to say? What do you think is the origin of their feud? Keep watching for more information on all of these in this video. Starting us off, Patrick Beverley opens up about his relationship with Chris Paul. Patrick Beverley of the Los Angeles Lakers and Chris Paul of the Phoenix Suns have had an intense rivalry dating back to Beverley's tenure with the Clippers. Beverley's career will always be linked to Chris Paul's because he was traded from the Houston Rockets to the Los Angeles Clippers as part of the Chris Paul trade. Paul is one of the league's most deft offensive guards, while Beverley is one of the league's top defensive guards. So their on-court confrontations have always been exciting. However, Patrick Beverley is a very divisive player among NBA fans. At the same time, some adore his theatrics and style of play, while others despise that he occasionally plays carelessly and recklessly. In addition, he speaks in a way that few others can match. While he targets several of his rivals, one guy in particular has drawn Patrick Beverley's ire. Chris Paul has been the target of Beverley's ire for a while now. When the Phoenix Suns were surprisingly ousted from the conference semifinals, he went on a media tour, and it would be an understatement to suggest that he held back in his criticism of Paul. He referred to him as a cone on defense and claimed that CP3 was devastated by him once when they competed at the LeBron James camp. Everyone who follows the NBA recalls Beverley's notorious shove of Paul after the 2021 Western Conference Finals and his brutally honest remarks against Paul during several ESPN appearances last summer. Beverley was asked about his connection with Chris Paul when appearing on Laugh Out Loud Network's Cold as Balls program with Kevin Hart. And here's what he had to say. He said that there was no relationship between him and Chris Paul. When asked if there is reciprocal respect, Beverley replied that he is in a position to respect Chris Paul. Still, whenever he meets Chris Paul, it's smoke. And that stems from everything Chris Paul has accomplished in his basketball career. However, he continued that until he retired or Chris Paul retired, he would pursue him until they were done. Nothing else is reasonable to anticipate from Beverley. He claims that there is mutual respect, but we have our doubts. When the Los Angeles Lakers recently played them, he smacked CP3 with the too little celebration, and as he has promised, he would continue to pursue Paul as long as they play in the league. Patrick Beverley also said he would hound Chris Paul until his knees popped. Next, Matt Barnes fires back at Patrick Beverley for comments on Chris Paul. Even though he may not have been among the game's all-time greats, Matt Barnes has been a listened-to expert in basketball since he won the NBA championship. While his reaction to Beverley may have been prompted by his friendship with Paul, Barnes' broader argument may have some merit. He stated that there was a fine line between criticism and contempt, and he thought what Pat Beverley did to Chris Paul today was rude and out of line. When expressing himself, the 33-year-old guard is unfiltered, which many regard as a positive. However, the depth to which Beverley said himself may have blurred the boundary between fact and fiction. The criticism leveled at Chris Paul for his performance in several previous games is justified, but additional comments may be considered excessive in this sense. While Patrick Beverley has little to say or do to defend himself against Barnes' accusations, his track record as a defender speaks for itself. Next up, Chris Paul brushes off Patrick Beverley's too small taunt amid the Suns' rout. With the Phoenix Suns leading early in the second half, Los Angeles Lakers guard Patrick Beverley made a layup while being fouled by Chris Paul early in the third quarter. Beverley signaled after the whistle that Paul was too little to guard him. him by placing his right hand only 4 inches off the ground. The thrill may have been misdirected. With his subsequent free throws, Beverley reduced the Suns' advantage from 26 to 23. Phoenix eventually won 130 to 104. When questioned about Beverley trying to humiliate him after the game, Paul responded that he ignored that stuff, and it's nothing new. He continued that he didn't think about it and just played basketball. When a player scores at the post against a smaller defender, Beverley's celebration has spread around the league as a common celebratory motion. Only in that specific matchup, there wasn't much of a size disparity. Beverley is noted as being 180 pounds and 6 feet tall. Paul is classified as 6 feet tall and 175 pounds. However, the production of the two guards was markedly different. Paul ended with 28 points, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 0 turnovers in 32 minutes. And the Suns beat the Lakers by 18. In the 23 minutes he played, Beverley had 9 points, 3 assists, and 3 turnovers, and Phoenix outscored Los Angeles by 17 points. The Lakers head coach, Darvin Ham, had no issues with his point guard strategy, even though his team was losing by a huge margin and was 5.5 games behind Phoenix in the Western Conference standings at the time Beverley made his statement. Ham remarked that was how Pat always behaved, and he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He continued that he thought everyone was becoming a bit too tense with men celebrating, and even though sportsmanship difficulties exist, players must be courteous of their opponent. He added that he believes people are who they are for the most part, and he doesn't want the league to grow to the point where players can't be themselves. Ham also said that as long as no player disrespects another person's family, spouse, kids, or anything else, he thinks the passion, emotion, and trash talking that go along with the game are just fuel and entertainment. Ham tolerated Beverley's intensity as long as it didn't go beyond. He had stated that he was hoping for a team effort versus Phoenix with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Austin Reeves all out due to injuries. According to Ham, Pat is an experienced veteran who wants to enjoy the game. Beverley's extracurricular activities have been a post-game discussion point for the second time in 2 visits to Phoenix this season. Beverley slammed Sun center DeAndre Ayton to the ground last month after Ayton loomed over Reeves after a foul by Phoenix's Devin Booker. For the shove, Beverley was eventually banned for 3 games. Finally, an explanation of how the Chris Paul-Patrick Beverley conflict started. After Phoenix's Game 7 defeat to Dallas, Patrick Beverley wasted no time joining the Chris Paul smear campaign. Early in the morning on ESPN, Pat Bev attacked longtime adversary CP3 with one shot after another. We hear the term "keep it real" much too frequently these days. Yet Beverley did precisely that. He didn't hold back when it came to tearing Paul apart. Whether he's speaking on the court, on Twitter, or television, Beverley is never short of words, as we all know. After his NBA career is over, Beverley will make an excellent talking head. During his stint in the league, he has been precisely that. Although Beverley is known for his aggressive defense, frequently pulling up ball handlers in the middle of the floor, Pat Bev's most significant attribute has been his tongue. He has the gift of gab and isn't hesitant to let his voice ring in his opponent's ears. In the days preceding a game against the Suns, Mr. 94 feet even asserted that nobody in the NBA sweats against Paul. Given Paul's high regard throughout the league, we are still determining how accurate it is. Paul's name was used in the same context as Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and Stephen Curry a year ago, while discussing the most significant point guards in basketball history. 1 year later, a journeyman guard who won't even be invited to the Hall of Fame after he's done playing is trash-talking him on national television. As we must acknowledge, the animosity between Beverley and Paul has a long history, dating back to before the NBA. During the regular season, Beverley appeared as a guest on Reddick's podcast, The Old Man and the Three, where he gave his perspective on how the feud began. Patrick Beverley stated that his beef with Chris Paul started when they were in high school. Beverley explained that many people needed help understanding his past, but he and Chris did. He continued that he and Chris Paul were invited to the large Nike LeBron James camp in college. Beverley continued that he thrashed Paul while playing, and then saw him in the NBA, so that energy would transfer to the NBA. So it isn't some petty resentment that developed over a few years. Knowing all this, it's no surprise that Beverley shoved Paul in the back during Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals last season. Although most people think it was wrong for him to do that, Paul isn't perfect, and Beverley wants to ensure everyone realizes that. CP3 has experienced many instances when his sportsmanship has been questioned, and they have often focused on hitting opponents below the belt. During his tirade, Pat even attacked one of Paul's signature moves by dismissing CP3's defensive prowess. Paul has been named to the all-defensive team 9 times. So who knows if this is merely rivalry or what Pat Bev genuinely thinks. In the past, Patrick Beverley has had his defensive abilities criticized, most notably by Russell Westbrook, who said that Patrick Beverley plays the victim and never guards anybody. Therefore, even if Patrick Beverley's remarks were entertaining, we are still determining that last statement. However, given Paul's most recent 5-game run, it will take a lot of work to get Beverley to think otherwise. So that's it, guys. While Chris Paul may be in bad form, do you agree with Patrick Beverley's criticism that Chris Paul is no longer a good player despite Chris Paul's previous stats? Let's hear your comments in the section below. Please remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching.